everyone wants to become successful. Anyone, like starting from a young kid in a class to a college going person to a person who is doing a corporate, who is doing a business. Everyone wants to be successful. And our entire education system and the ecosystem is designed like that people want to become successful. You think people are not accepting you, when you think people do not accept your ideas, and that's the time you have to stay strong. If you continue during that time, because the majority of learning will happen from that time. So try and find people around you who think like you. Try and meet them as often as possible, because those are the people who will support your ideas and you will be able to grow or nurture your plans moving forward. We never go to a institution or a youth and say, please do it for us. We generally ask them what is it that they want to do, and we support that ecosystem through a process. So every changemaker lab chooses their own problem, chooses their own audience, work on that, and our process is to support them grow. Since last 10 years, we started from 2 villages, now we reached 37 countries, and it's growing. We talk about sustainability a lot, we talk about sustainable development goals a lot. Government has been doing what they want to do, but it's always a top-down approach. But until and unless each and every individual on this planet Earth takes part in this mission of saving the planet.
Hello, Dr. Amit. Welcome to Talking Through.
Thank you.
Very nice having you here. Before we actually start the podcast and get into the specifics of what you do, would you like to kind of tell us something about yourself?
Thanks, Dipankar, for inviting me to this podcast. So Dipankar, my career has been in the field of biotechnology previously. I did my engineering and then worked in a CSIR lab for almost 8 years. Also completed my doctorate in the process on hepatitis B virus at Orange Institute of Medical Sciences. But I think fate has something else decided for me. So there was a time then I thought that after completing my doctorate, that what is it that I want to do in life? Like, should I continue doing what I was doing and what I'll be able to achieve or what I'll be able to contribute? Or should I try something else? So I decided to take a break. I decided to take a break of a year to see what else are the possibilities and the opportunities. And in that break, I got to enter into field of social entrepreneurship for a brief period with Department of Science and Technology, Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and Intel. And that experience actually pushed me harder to understand this field more and to understand the problems in the real sense. So I actually, to understand the problems, I thought I'll go specifically. I was very inclined with the rural areas and the challenges people face there, based on whatever experience I had at AIMS when I used to talk to a lot of patients coming from rural areas. So I thought, let me go and understand what problems are in these areas. So I took a journey for 3 months. I stayed in villages across UP and Uttarakhand. And during that journey, I got to understand challenges in a very deeper way. When I started that journey, I had a thought that I'll be able to solve some problems. But over a period of time, I realized it's not alone I can do everything there. And I'll give you one instance, couple of instances, which actually changed my thought process in that journey. In one of the villages, when I was asking about the challenges and the problems, initially people always talk about they don't have roads, hospitals, or schools. So I thought I'll not be able to do anything much about it. But then in one of the villages, the Sarpanch told me the real problem is people like you coming to the villages. And I was little shocked, and I asked him, why do you think like this? He said that people from cities come to villages, and when our kids look at them, they feel that their lives in cities are much better, and they start moving to the cities. He said that I'm comfortable in my own village. I earn a little bit, but I'm happy. And he said 2 years back, one of my sons went to the cities and he's living not a very comfortable life. He's got into wrong habits, and now he's asking for money from me itself. So what's the point of moving to cities? Let us be the way we are. And that's like a shock to me to understand what people think there. So development is one thing, but again, thinking from that perspective, people are content also in some cases. So I went further and thought, let me try one more place and see what I can do. And I reached a place called Dabar. It's in Uttarakhand near Lansdowne. So this particular village, when I inquired and I talked about it, so one of the women said that there are problems around animals coming and destroying our crops. I was like, the obvious solution that comes from my mind is do the fencing around this. And what she said, that we can't do fencing because they do terrace farming in those places. So they have a small farm here, small farm there, and it's very expensive to do fencing. And second, a lot of monkeys come and destroy the crops. So how would a fence stop them? So thinking like this, I was like, I'm a PhD holder. I don't have a solution to it. Let me see what I can do. So I just told them I didn't have a solution straight away. So I told them that I'll come back to you. And I was actually thinking very hard that how can this problem be solved? And on my way to another location, almost 10 years away from that village, I saw some towers standing in one of the villages, one of the farms. And I went to that farm trying to understand what these towers are all about, because they were not mobile towers, they were not electricity towers. There was no mobile signal in that region. So I got to know that these are towers like installed by a corporation for testing, and these towers keep animals away. So I was more curious about them. So I got to understand the farmer whose farm was that. He told me that they got them from Dehradun and it got imported from some other country. And the idea was that it emits sound waves at a particular wavelength, which keeps animals away. So I thought this is the perfect solution for the previous village. The only two challenges were it needed electricity to run, continuous electricity, and second, it can work only in a 100 square meter area. So I still captured all the details, went back to the village really happy, and thought that I have found your solution. It's like a eureka moment for me at that point of time, and showed them the solution. They looked at it. They were hopeful that it might solve. But again, when I told them the price of each of the towers, they were like, it's difficult for us to install those. Each of those towers were costing around 12,000 rupees at that point of time. So I tried to convince them that this cost is less than what you're losing entire year, but it was very difficult for them to get convinced by this thought. So finally, I told them that I'll try and install 3 of them from whatever savings I had. And if it works, you give me in writing, you will install them. So not everyone, but 15 people agreed to this. And we installed 3 towers in the field of the same women who asked this question at the first go. So we installed it with a hope that it'll work and later people will do it. And I went ahead with my journey. I got a call back again after a month that this thing has worked and they want to install more. So I went back, I figured out things, and this time not 15 but 45 people were ready to install these towers with their own expense. So I talked to them and they told me that we don't want to install the entire thing, just give us the transmitters, the tower and the electricity connection we will do on our own. And this particular thing, when we started talking to the importer and the company, we actually got almost like a 50% discount because of the bulk devices we ordered and also only the transmitters needed. So the cost came down to 6,000 and the problem ultimately got solved. So when I actually, in a retrospect, when I see this, the problem was not mine. The solution was not mine. I was just the person who was connecting the 2 dots together. And this is where a lot of mindset change happened. Before that village, I was entering any location, any place with a thought that I am there to solve the problem. But the moment I got a shock from a previous village where Sarpanch said, you are the problem, and then I was not able to answer the question of this particular woman about the problems of animals, the entire mindset changed to how can this problem be solved? So if we can just think from a perspective that's not that you have to solve the problem, but it is about how the problem can be solved, the entire world comes to you. Okay, and this is the thought behind the entire organization. So it's all about connecting the dreams of people, and your dreams get connected as well. So that's the start of the journey. And then again, a lot of other instances happened where we started our first project in Hapur, where we connected 2 villages over internet from through our model called Apna Tech Tree, and that got recognized as one of the first ever platform for a 2-way communication, community talking to community in rural and urban areas. And that gave us success. And then I realized that if a person like me can do something like this and impact people through some efforts, and in the process also learning a lot. So what will happen if the youth of the country get this opportunity like me? And can we create such journeys and platforms for people where people can come, learn, and impact lives as well, and in turn find their own passions? And that's how we initiated Connecting Dream Foundation way back in 2012. We started with 2 villages. Now we are present in 37 countries. And that's the journey which is going ahead.
Wow, fantastic. So you've been enabling change.
Yes.
Yeah. So, which is very impressive and also very heartening for people like us. Um, I know you've done whatever you've told about Connecting Dreams Foundation, but you've also been nurturing a lot of change makers, right? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Thanks, Dipankar. So, Dipankar, before I get into change makers, I'll tell you the reason why we started this. Everyone wants to become successful. Anyone, like starting from a young kid in a class to a college going person to a person who is doing a corporate, who is doing a business. Everyone wants to be successful. And our entire education system and the ecosystem is designed like that people want to become successful. But when we talk about success, most of the success that people achieve nowadays, how do you define it, is by competition. Right? So most of the success that people achieve is by competition. There is nothing wrong in that, I understand, because that's how we are designed, that we have to compete to become first in class or in sports or in business or in job, right? So that's how we feel. But when we do this, we also accumulate wealth, and that's what success is all about, wealth and success. But when we talk about wealth, it's just one type of wealth that we're accumulating. It's mostly financial wealth that we are running after. Right? But it's not a complete wealth when we look into this scenario. When we accumulate financial wealth, we compromise wealth of time, we compromise our social wealth, we also compromise our family time and our mental health, and in some cases, physical health as well, in these cases. So even if you are accumulating a lot of financial health, you are not happy, you're not content, you're not satisfied. So this success is not helping anyone. There is another way, which I learned the hard way, which took me 30 years of my life to understand what's the other way of success. And the other way of success is success by contribution. If you are able to achieve success by contribution, you will be able to balance your wealth in a way that you have all the liberties of financial along with time, mental health, physical, and social wealth as well. So that's the ultimate wealth that people should aim for. And when we do go by for a success by contribution approach, then you will be more conscious and sensitive towards our planet and people around us. And then a lot of issues like anxiety, fear, hatredness will go away. Okay, and you will live a life which is full of contentment, and you will try and make this planet better every day. So we believe everyone on this planet should go through a process of success by contribution. Right now, we don't have so much of platforms, even through our education system or anywhere else, where people can achieve their journeys through success by contribution. So we create these pathways. So we create these pathways for people, or journeys or experiential learning spaces for the people where they can experience success by contribution approach. And some of these people ultimately will go ahead and lead a life like this and live a fulfilled life ultimately. And that's good for our planet as well. So through this process, we reach out to people. We reach out to people from young ages in schools, in colleges, to give them an experience of this kind of success, or experience where they can at least start finding their passion. Okay, by not only doing something, but also impacting local communities. So we set up something called changemaker labs in these areas. In rural schools, we create a format in which a group of people, a group of teams called changemakers, who will ultimately support the community in solving their own challenges through a process. And we try and tell them how this process works. And through this process of solving issues, they try and find their own journeys, they try and find their own passions, and ultimately will be able to impact people around them. Similarly, this happens in colleges. And then there are also a set of people who have already started these journeys, but they don't know how to continue. People maybe in social entrepreneurship sector, startups. You would know better that, like, stats says that almost 85% of startups or social enterprises that start shut down within 2 years of their. And the reasons are very specific in terms of not having a clear goal, vision, or having a very clear direction that they want to move in, or appropriate consultations, mentoring, and guidance. So that's the second sector that we also target, where we identify such people who are really passionate about bringing a change, has been working for at least a couple of years, either at rural level across India or at global level. So we have 2 fellowships that we also run called Changemakers for Gram Swarajya, and a Global Changemaker Fellowship, which targets people from different countries around the globe. So we have this ecosystem where we are impacting people across people who want to create a change and don't know how to do it through Changemaker Labs, and people who are already in this journey of creating a change, how do you sustain them? So that's the second level of fellowship that we do. So through this program, we capture almost every sector in this case.
So one thing that's come to my mind is when you were saying that Connecting Dreams Foundation is working across 37 countries, right? So it's a fairly large organization. How do you run it like organizationally?
So we are a, I'll not say volunteer, we're a change maker driven organization. So what we are doing is facilitation. We are creating these ecosystems which over a period of time are running on their own. When we are saying sustenance and systems change, we are also bringing that into our practice. So we work in a very lean team. We are not a very huge team that works across these countries, but we have now these fellows which are in different countries who are now replicating the work that we are doing in different spaces. So what we do is we create these change makers or change leaders across different places, train them over a period of time to understand how change works, and then make them leaders. How can they take this forward? How can they create this ecosystem? How can they localize the problems of their own region in their own way? So, and then we support them in that cases. So that's how it works.
That's how it works. And I'm wondering, if somebody is a change maker, then they don't have to be from a certain background, right? Anybody could be that.
Yes.
But you'll have to enable and impact that change. So how do you do that?
Sure. So we have a very specific process for it. So when we talk about change, again, like change can be anything, all right? So how do we identify change? Change is something like if I raise my hand from here to here, is this also change? But if it comes back, it's a temporary change. So when we talk about change in a social sector, we're also talking about a change which is transformative in nature, which is sustainable, which stays for long. So for that, you need a very specific process or a mindset. Otherwise, what will happen till that time you are forcing that change, that will stay there. But the moment you're out, it goes away. I'll give you a very simple analogy for this. When you look at an aquarium, it looks absolutely beautiful, stunning. But you need to put a lot of resources around that to make sure it runs, it stays in that place. If you stop electricity, if you stop air, if you don't stop giving food, what will happen to the aquarium? The fishes will die and it'll destroy. But if you look at a pond, all right, the mindset, the pond stays on its own, even if you don't support it from outside. So the mindset needed to create a pond is very different from a mindset creating an aquarium. Similarly, for a garden versus a forest. All right. So we try and give that mindset to people. How do you create a change by not being part of it, by not being the person who are creating the change, but being agents of change or facilitators of change? So we do this by a 3-step process. We call it 3C model of change making, which we've developed over a lot of years by getting a lot of feedback and customization from existing models and our experiences on field. So the first step is collect challenges, or we call it collect dreams. The second is create solutions. And third is change lives. So if I have to explain you in very simpler terms, the first step is understanding change. And when we call collect challenges or understanding change, it's about understanding it from all the perspectives. Okay, what we generally do and the way our education system goes, we although say and we hear this quote like multiple number of times through our reels or social media, which Einstein also mentioned, if I have just 1 hour to save the world, then I'll spend 55 minutes in understanding the problem and 5 minutes in creating the solution. But how many of us actually do this? We do it vice versa. We generally spend only 5 minutes in understanding the problem and spend 55 minutes in creating a solution. So we try and go back to the basics. We try and see how can you understand the problem from all the perspectives, not only your perspective, but from the perspective of the user or the perspective of the beneficiary or the community. If you're able to do it wonderfully well, then your half work is done, or I'll say 70% of the work is done. So we spend a substantial time in collecting challenges, connecting with the community that you want to work with, And this applies to anything. This applies to bringing a change to yourself or changing the world. The same philosophy applies everywhere. So even if you want to bring a change to yourself, you need to understand all the aspects of what kind of change, how do you define change, what kind of problem you are looking at. Okay, how does it affect you right now? And if it gets solved, what will happen? What's the end result? So understanding it from inside out is very important. So we do this through a process. And once this is done, then we go to the next stage, which is called create solutions. Again, in create solutions, we depend a lot on our intuitive things. Like this can be the best idea. And most of the people are driven by ideas, to be honest. Okay. But identifying an idea which is appropriate for that community is also a process. All right. It is not. So once you have not understood the problem, then the idea may not be the best idea for the community. If you understood the problem, then you can generate as many ideas as possible. So especially in our Changemaker labs, we also introduce a lot of concepts like lateral thinking. We come out with a lot of ways to think. So we have something like a 6. So when we say auto box thinking, we actually define that box. What are the 6 walls of that box? How do you break those walls? Those walls are actually your filters, those things that you have been thinking around in a process. So we break those things. And in a normal session of an hour of ideation in our classroom, people generate even thousands of ideas within an hour. And then they actually filter those ideas and come out with ideas which are absolutely suitable, practical for the community. And that's where the create stage is over. And then we go to change. So it's not just about the idea, but it's also converting that idea to reality. So we also give them space on how do you actually do a pilot with the community members, keeping them in the center, not you doing it, but making sure they do it on their own through a pilot, and you become a supportive process in that. And once that's done, and we look at the pilot again and the results again, if there is any pivoting needed, that's done, or you experiment or repeat the cycle again and again, and ultimately come out with a solution. It sustains on its own, it grows on its own. And that's the mindset we try and give in a collect, create, and change process. And as I said, it can be applied anywhere. We have tested this to, I'll say, more than 3,000 conditions so far. 3,000 projects have been done through this process, and we have found success almost everywhere.
Which is fantastic. But I still want to understand a little bit more. Like when you are approaching a group of people who are on the path to change making, there must be some problems that come from that side also.
Yes.
Right? What kind of problems do you face?
Sure. So when you're saying the people who are in the path of change making, they've already started that journey. Okay. I'm talking about the 2 categories, like the fellowship or the individuals that we work for. So what happens when we start the journey with them? Most of these people would be on that mindset that I want to solve this problem the way I experienced it when I was on that journey. So our purpose in that process is that how can you convert that mindset from I want to solve this problem to how can this problem be solved? And we do this through a similar process where they actually clarify in clear terms what is it that I want to achieve. So right now, the current cohort that's going on, we have people from almost like 15 countries who are going through this particular process, where we are taking them through the journey where within 1.5 months of this program running right now, many of these people have changed their missions and visions, which initially they identified from an idea perspective or from their own perspective. The moment they started going through this process, they understood it is not us, but the people whom they're working for. And the moment you understand their challenges and problems, your missions and visions get clarified. And once your mission and vision get clarified, then you can work towards the goals and achieve them in a much better way. Then you become more open to collaboration. Then you are more open to talking to other people, seeking help. And that's where the problems started getting solved.
Right. And I sometimes struggle with understanding the concept of sustainability. I hear it a lot in terms of environment, in terms of business, and in terms of general life. Can you explain this a little bit with an example?
Sure. So when we talk about sustainability, I'll give you an example of a single change maker and a change maker lab team as well. So we have this change maker from Punjab. Okay, his name is Lovepreet. So he came to us in 2021, and the challenge he's trying to work on is how can he keep people out of drugs, especially in the sector. And Punjab is a hotspot for the drug challenge that people are facing. Almost Every fifth home has a challenge there of drugs. So now you see the problems, the systematic solutions that people have come out with for drugs are having drug de-addiction centers. But do you know of any drug de-addiction center which has a very high success rate? No, there are none. There are none. You keep people inside that center for a brief period. You keep them devoid of drugs or through a process. But the moment they're out, maybe for a brief period, for a month or 2 months, they'll be out of drugs, but again, they'll get back. So this cycle keeps on repeating again and again. How do you solve this problem in a sustainable way? Sustenance means the moment you do an intervention, that should stay long for long. So for that, you need to understand the problem really well. So when he came, he was also doing a lot of awareness drives around drugs, Nukkad Natak, etc. But when he went through this process, we told him to go and understand the problem from the perspective of the people who are undergoing this change or taking drugs. Like you are saying drugs is a problem, but do you talk to a person who is taking drugs? Is that a problem for them? They'll say no. They are more than happy to take drugs. Okay. But once you start understanding why they got into drugs, so he figured out when he started talking to people, one of the reasons is a lot of their friends influenced them to got into drugs. Okay, and that's how the cycle started, right? So they have role models which are taking more drugs in that village. So what he did is that he started doing it in a reverse direction. So he created a small sports field outside the village and started playing handball with people and started influencing some of the people who were taking drugs to get into handball practices. And within 6 months, a couple of those people really got off drugs and started playing even at zonal levels. 3 or 4 of them over a period of time are now playing in state level handball competitions. They got recognized. Now these people are now coming back, are getting recognized at different levels and are appreciated for the work they are doing. So now these people have become new role models. Now seeing them over last 3 years, he has took out almost 75 people from drugs sustainably. And that's what sustainability is all about. That once you're creating a process, it stays there for long, even if you're not there. So now he's moving to other locations and setting up similar academies. But now the people who have changed are now influencing other change makers moving forward. And that's the difference, if I say, is different from volunteering and change making. Okay, volunteering is doing your effort, but change making is making up sure that you create an effort which creates a change which stays for long, forever. And that's what systemic change and sustainability is all about.
And people like Lovepreet that you mentioned, there might be thousands of them now, right? So how does Connecting Dreams Foundation support them in this journey?
Absolutely. So we have a very structured process, Dipankar, in this. So when we talk about Changemaker Labs, we have our own curriculums and ecosystems that we have created in different colleges and schools. So this keep on continuing for a long duration of time. Even if students move out, the system still stays. So it is not only helping them, but it is also helping a community for a long duration by also having anchors there like teachers or faculties from colleges also participating in this. So what they're getting a support in is they're learning a lot of skills. They're getting a lot of platforms to showcase the work that they're doing. Like, for example, some of our students also got an opportunity to go to United Nations and present their work. And that also helped them in going ahead in their journey, in their lives moving forward. Many of these people stay in touch with us beyond their colleges and schools. And I would be happy to say many of them have changed their careers because of the experience they've felt. Like I know a lot of people from SRCC, which is a very specific financial kind of institutions. People have changed their careers from SRCC to liberal arts or started their own foundations or NGOs. Recently, we met someone who is now starting altogether a new initiative, which is for social impact. So this is also happening over a period of time. So that's how we support. For the fellowship, it's a long-term journey. For Gram Swaraj, we support for 3 years in whatever processes we can and take this community forward.
Okay. And what I understand is that collaborating and partnership is a very fundamental thing here for CDF's work. Can you give me an example?
So we can't have done so much of work without the help of the partners or the collaborators. There are many, but I'll take examples specific of, say, like Piramal Foundation we work with very closely, especially in the education sector in schools. So way back in 2020, we reached out to them to say that when we were starting the school program, that can we experiment and see if this program works for them? And they were really supportive in that case. We started with 15 schools with them, and the kind of results we observed, now we are working with them in almost like 4 states. And we started from 15 schools. We are working in 800 schools right now. So the partners like these help us a lot in growing, because we know we can't do everything, and we don't want to get into that space. Everyone has their own expertise. So we need to get together and achieve that dream together in a process.
And I mean, CDF, what I've understood by talking to you, listening to you, it's into change making, like in an everyday basis, right? It's a perpetual process that keeps happening through a lot of challenges and a lot of collaboration. But inspiring young people is not an easy task, right? So how do you do that?
So Dipankar, the way generally young people think, especially in this century, I really love the way they are really independent thinkers. They are not influenced by what is happening for decades or years or centuries. They have their own opinions. That's very important. So when they look at the problem, they look from a very neutral perspective, and we just talk their language. We give them a lot of freedom. We never go to a institution or a youth and say, please do it for us. We generally ask them what is it that they want to do, and we support that ecosystem through a process. So every changemaker lab chooses their own problem, chooses their own audience, work on that, and our process to support them grow. So it is that they are learning and we are supporting in the process that they want to achieve and learn. So that's how people get attracted to what we are doing. We are a very different system that way as compared to any other program that they would have been part of. Right? So that's how they understand this ecosystem and the tribe that we are forming, and they enjoy doing that process.
I'm wondering, how do you vision the next 10 years of CDF, and how do you want to grow this?
It's an interesting question, and we've been thinking about it a lot. Since last 10 years, we started from 2 villages. Now we reached 37 countries, and it's growing more. But now idea is to bring this perspective into everyday life, to every individual. It's not just about youth, it's everyone who can contribute. We talk about sustainability a lot. We talk about sustainable development goals a lot. Government has been doing what they want to do, but it's always a top-down approach. But until and unless each and every individual on this planet Earth takes part in this mission of saving the planet, it will not be saved. So we want to bring this mindset, we want to bring this approach to accessible to each and every person out there, where they just think that it's not just we have to live by competing or just getting something. Can we live with a mindset that what is it that I'm contributing? What is it that I'm giving back? The moment people start thinking like this, we don't have to talk about sustainability. And we want to bring this into everyday conversation. We want to bring this into whatever you're doing. Can we start thinking consciously? Can we start doing it in a more sensitive way towards our planet, towards the people around us? And world would be a much happier place to live. And that's what we want to bring in to each and every individual in the next decade that we're talking about.
Right. And do you have any advice for people who want to, do some good work by creating communities? Because I've spoken to a lot of people, and what they've told me is when they start a journey, after a point they're left alone.
Absolutely.
So how do you deal with that?
So journey is like that only. So when you start, you always find a tribe, and that's where, or the community that you talk about, that's where the start happens. Okay, but to continue that start, you have to keep on doing small actions every day. Okay, there will be always a time when you are left alone, when you think, or when people, you think people are not accepting you, when you think people do not accept your ideas, and that's the time you have to stay strong. If you continue during that time, because the majority of learning will happen from that time. So try and find people around you who think like you. Try and meet them as often as possible, because those are the people who will support your ideas, and you will be able to grow or nurture your plans moving forward. And this is what CDF is also providing, like a platform. If you have any idea, if you have anything that you want to contribute to, please join us, talk to us, and we'll be able to support you and give you a tribe to work on.
And with your experience, would you like to give a message to the audience?
Absolutely. Thanks, Dipankar, for this. So I would just say, like, life is actually very beautiful, right? It's just our mindset or the thought through which we are looking, the lens through which we are looking at this life. I think it's time to change that lens. It's time to think in a way that instead of what I can get, if I can start thinking what I can give back, the mindset will change your entire world. Okay, the world which is like, if I say right now, if you're thinking like a slave, you'll start thinking like a king. So if everyone on this planet, and if you can start this journey from first step, that what I can give back to each and every individual, to each and every person I'm talking to, even if it's not in terms of money, I'm talking about even in terms of happiness, even in terms of emotions, even in terms of support. If I can start thinking or developing this mindset, life will be really beautiful. And then we don't have to talk about sustainability, it happens. And we just need to think that how can we leave this planet better than what we have received. If everyone thinks like this, world would be a wonderful place to live. And it's not late, never late to start this journey. Just start now, and day would be beautiful, and the world would be beautiful moving forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Amit,
Thank you.
and giving us your time and coming here speaking with us. I've learned a lot, to be honest. I'm sure the audience will find it very encouraging and empowering. And I hope to speak with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Dipankar. Thanks a lot.